right, welcome back. And joining us now is Gerald Celente of trendsjournal.com. And of course, Gerald has been... Sorry, I had to sneeze there. It's about to come on me again here. But Gerald has been warning us, as I said before the break, about this for a very, very long time. I don't know what's happening with my sneezes. Anyway, right. He's been warning us about this for a very long time. And again, we're going to talk about this and maybe, talk a little bit about what happens economically with this, because we can't do anything in terms of military response to this as individuals, but we can respond to it in terms of economics. And there are some things that we need to keep in mind as to what's going to be happening to our society. Not a lot of good news, but there are a few things that we can do to prepare for this. And so joining us now is Gerald Celente, trendsjournal.com, and you can save 10% off with the code NIGHT. Thank you for joining us, Gerald. Always great to have you on.
Thank you so much. I've never been sadder in my life. I've been at this for 46 years.
Yes, I know.
One of my books, Trend Tracking, far better than Megatrends, Time Magazine. Here, how I became a trend forecaster, right? Here it is. Mm-hmm. The Iran conflict.
Yep.
Late 1970s. They taught us to hate Iran, with 99.99% of the people having absolutely no idea of the United States overthrow and the UK of the democratically elected president of Iran in 1953, Mohammad Mosaddegh.
Yeah, I'm so sick of seeing that 47 thing. As a matter of fact, one thing that really made me want to throw up, I saw some guy on social media and he says, 47 years they've been doing this to us. And it's like, stop with the 47 years. And Trump is the 47th president. It's a sign from God. And it's like, it's a sign from God that you're a total idiot. You don't know anything about history or the Bible. If you're going to talk about that, it's been 73 years.
Again, they have no idea. Matter of fact, the only newspaper that finally released the facts that I know of about 10 years ago was the Financial Times. When they finally released the telegrams that went from Winston Churchill, a fat, stupid, ugly, cigar-smoking slob that people bow down to, a little arrogant, kind of like a Trump, loves war but never fights, gave us World War I and World War II. That slime ball, telegrams from him to Kermit Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt's grandson, that we must overthrow the government of Mosaddegh. You know why? Because that lousy SOB, Mosaddegh, had the gall, the nerve to say the oil in Iran does not belong to Anglo-Iranian oil, better known today as BP, or Standard Oil, better known today as ExxonMobil.
Yeah.
They overthrew the government because of oil and put in that piece of crap, arrogant scum, the Shah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right?
Did you see the fact that at CPAC, they brought in the Shah's son? Well, everybody else has got these No Kings rallies going on worldwide. CPAC brings in a king's son, right? And want to set up a monarchy again in Iran. It's absolutely beyond parody.
You're being disrespectful. It's the crown prince, isn't it? The prince.
I don't know what it is.
Shove this prince crap up you know what.
Yeah.
Another fat little slob.
Yeah.
Anyway, going back, they brought in the Savak, the secret police that made the SS look good. They slaughtered tens of thousands of Palestinians that protested against this. When the war broke out, again, this is when I became a political atheist. Another little piece of slime scum that morons and imbeciles look up to, little Jimmy Carter, comes back from spending New Year's Eve with the Shah and his wife. And they had to, he gets out of the helicopter, and all those little boys dressed up in their costumes with all the medals. They salute him. He's the president. He comes out and he says, quote, the Shah is the island of stability in the Middle East.
Our greatest ally, like Israel.
Yep. And in the Bronx, we used to say, BS has its own sound. This guy's going down. That's when I started playing the golden oil futures. Anyway. It became a radicalized religious movement because of the United States refusing to leave Iran.
Mm-hmm.
How dare you tell us to leave our embassy in your country? How dare you tell us that? Hey, get the hell out of here. We're not leaving. Oh, and they arrested all those people in the embassy? Who were they? All CIA guys.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, as a matter of fact, we don't talk about this too much, but after all that stuff happened, they shredded all these papers, right? And Iranian students went in and painstakingly, over a very long period of time, took all the shredded paper and pieced it back together so they could get the documents. And they've got a museum. They turned the U.S. Embassy into a museum to try to tell the Iranian people what the U.S. and Mossad did to them. And yet nobody in this country understands that. I learned about it before the Shah was overthrown, before they took the embassy. I learned about it because there were a lot of Iranian students at USF where I was in engineering, and they were out there protesting with balaclavas over their head. I said, what are you guys doing that for? I understand protests. I mean, there's a lot of protests about this or that all the time. But I said, why are you wearing the mask? And they told me about Savak. I was like, wow. I said, your CIA trained them. And that was my wake-up moment to realize that, hey, are we the bad guys here?
As I said, you think the United States would have invaded Syria, Libya, and Iraq if their major export was broccoli?
Yeah, right.
And how about Trump? Hey, we got to get the narco-terrorists from Venezuela. We're killing all those people in their boats 1,500 miles from here. All those narco-terrorists. And then what does he do? Kidnaps the president and the wife of Venezuela. Hey, it's all about oil. It's all about oil. We own the oil now. We got the oil now. All right?
Mm-hmm.
This is disgusting. And
Drug
now,
wars.
Going back to that slime ball, that little arrogant, may he rot in hell, Jimmy Carter, and that other SOB Brzezinski, remember him?
Oh, yeah. The guy that was all about the technocracy. When you look at the drug war in Venezuela, when you look at the oil war in Iran, now understand our history in all of this and understand how the CIA is the one who've been running this drug war. They're the ones who created crack cocaine. The drug war was a creation of the United Nations. They actually created the schedule of 4 different classes of drugs and handed it to Nixon. He called it his drug war. Yep. And when you look at our history with Iran, not only does it go back to 1953, but it also includes things like the Iran-Contra issue, where they made deals with the Ayatollah, where they delayed the release of these CIA hostages in Iran and used it for their own purposes so they could fund a secret war in South America. I mean, it's just, again, it repeats itself. It rhymes. It's always a little bit different, but it's always the same stuff. It's the CIA running drugs, doing assassinations, doing regime overthrows, and leaving us worse off than we ever were before.
Again, that book, War's a Racket by Smedley Butler, the most decorated Marine in history back in the 1930s. He talks all about it. Mm-hmm. How we fight for United Fruit, for the Brown brothers, or the one that the Bush family was involved in. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm talking about that bastard Brzezinski. Oh, his daughter's on that MSD. Maybe, yeah, that one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's the slime ball. That's the slime ball that they created. Oh, you all hate Al-Qaeda, huh? And that Osama bin Laden. Yeah, these are the ones that created it. Mm-hmm. Because the Russians were fighting against the Taliban in Afghanistan to try to stop them from overthrowing the government. Mm-hmm. And the Jimmy Carter and the Brzezinskis brought in the Mujahideen, which is now Al-Qaeda, run by Osama bin Laden. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that created it to defeat the Russians from trying to stop the Taliban from taking over Afghanistan. Afghanistan was a very, very culturally advanced nation before the Taliban took over. Mm-hmm.
Well, again, when you go back and look at it, you can see the bipartisan lines of all this stuff. You got, as you point out, Brzezinski and these guys helping Al-Qaeda get set up. You had the old warmonger John McCain and Lindsey Graham. They're there. John McCain was going around about the same time to these Republican women's groups, and he had one of the Al-Qaeda guys with him. They called him Mujahideen at the time. And he would say, give us some money. You can adopt a Muj, right? You can give some money and you can help the war effort in Afghanistan. Well, now, they just installed a guy who's got a pedigree of being with the Mujahideen, then with the rebranded Al-Qaeda, then with ISIS, then with al-Nusra. Now he has been installed by the American government, by the Pentagon and the CIA as head of Syria. And he is persecuting everybody that he can find there that is not part of his tribe. It truly is amazing to see this repeat over and over and over again. They keep getting away with it.
It's disgusting.
It is.
Yeah. Again, you're talking about Syria.
Mm-hmm.
How about the Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner, Barack Obama? Mm-hmm. Yeah, who lied his way into office. And before the one about John McCain, another little arrogant slime ball, may he rot in hell. Hey, don't you know my daddy was? Oh, my daddy was a general or something? Oh, and I only crashed a couple of planes on the aircraft. Hey, but it's okay. Don't you know my father is? As George Carlin said, it's one big club and you ain't in it.
Yeah.
And it's the Epstein Club. That's the other part of it.
Yeah. And when you look at Zbigniew Brzezinski...
Let me finish this. Going back to Obama. This is the guy that lied his way into office. As soon as he got in, the Afghan troop surge.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and who was the clown boy, the arrogant guy that's the general betrayed us?
Mm-hmm.
Betray us?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what is betray us now working for? Oh, KKR, that big hedge fund. Oh, yeah. All right. Now, going back to Obama. Gave us the Afghan war, ramped it up. Overthrew Gaddafi, the richest country in Africa, where the people in Libya had more rights and benefits than most people in the world. It was a great tourist spot, as was Syria. He was the one to try to overthrow the beginning and the destruction of the Assad government. Whether you liked him or not, none of my business as an American. And look what he did to it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then they wonder why you have all these immigrants that have flooded into Europe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Listen to Gaddafi's speech warning that if you overthrow my government, you are going to be flooded with migrants coming out of the countries around us. And that's exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm. And they turned it into a weapons bazaar where everybody can buy all these weapons out of Libya. Also, slave markets that they have there now. Every time we go in, it gets much worse. Just like our involvement in Iran set up the Ayatollah. Now this decapitation strike, because they're not getting regime change, they have solidified the people of Iran against Trump. They want to say, well, we want you out in the streets and take over your government. And hand it back to us, right? Well, instead, what they did, they got out in the streets and they circled the infrastructure that Trump was threatening to blow up as he's threatening to destroy their civilization. But they're going to wind up having a more radicalized Iran than they did in the past. And this is consistent with the repeated failures of the Pentagon and the CIA throughout decades. Every time they go in, they make it worse. And so you got situations when you talk about what's happening in Iran. There was recently and it was in Haaretz newspaper. They're talking about the fact that a major synagogue in Tehran was destroyed. And it's like, what? A synagogue in Tehran? I mean, these radical, you can't talk to these people from Iran, right? And yet they allowed a synagogue there. I saw a video prior to that. I saw a video from an ultra-Orthodox rabbi, and he said, there's about 35,000 Jews in Iran, and they leave them alone. It's just like Assad and the Jews and the Christians in Syria. He'd leave them alone. But then you put in the people that we put in, and they start killing everybody. And there was actually, in response to the Israeli destruction of a synagogue in Iran, in Tehran, Iran, you had a member of parliament who is also Jewish. They have Jews in their parliament. Do you think they got any Muslims in the Knesset? I don't know if they do, or if they do, they don't have much power.
Going back to the war, we've been warning, as you were saying before I went on the air, we've been warning for decades It's in your Trends Journal.
Mm-hmm.
For years, for months, for weeks, we've been saying, if the United States and/or Israel goes to war against Iran, Brent crude is going to spike to above $100 a barrel.
That's right.
And it's going to bring down the global economy, the equity markets, and there's no way that they will defeat the Iranians. Mm-hmm. They are very advanced scientifically, technologically, and militarily. Mm-hmm. And to make this a zillion percent clear, the United States has not won a war since World War II. Could not beat the Vietnamese, only killed over 3 million of them. Mm-hmm. Couldn't beat the Iraqis, we only killed a couple of million over there. Couldn't beat the Afghans, the longest war in American history. And you wouldn't have won World War II, and you can't say this, they hate you for this, without the Russians. They were the first ones to defeat the Germans. After the Germans killed, some 27 million Russians in Operation Barbarossa. What makes you think you're going to beat the Iranians?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Let's talk a little bit about oil, because one of the aspects of this was the ceasefire was supposed to open this up. There are something like 800 ships that are trapped in that area to try to get out. They had, I think, 2 of them get out. And because Israel would not stop attacking Lebanon, I think they closed that down again. But even if they were to bring this up, people are saying, well, we might be able, under this protocol that they're talking about, might be able to get enough traffic through there. We might be able to have 15 tankers a day go through there. They had typically, before all this stuff was kicked off by Trump and Israel, they had about 100 to 140 tankers going through there. So you're looking at an 85 to 90% reduction in the amount of oil that's going through there. So even if they get that going, it's not a good sign. And one of the reasons I think that oil dropped so much is because there's so much oil that is a backlog. I mean, they filled up all these tankers, they filled up all their storage areas. And so the people who are trading oil say, well, if all that hits at once, it's going to depress the price of oil in the near term. But in the long term, it's going to take a long time for them to get production back up. There's been damaged facilities, as well as even if you just shut down an oil well, it takes a very long time for it to come back up. Talk about the economic knock-on effects of this that we're going to see.
Listen to the IMF, all of them, every one of them's coming out. And they're all saying how dangerous this is going to be for the global economy. Mm-hmm. And you saw the numbers that came out today, the inflation numbers, and they're spiking. And you're looking at consumer sentiment right now is at almost an all-time low for recent years. And no, this is hurting terribly. But what am I talking about? Let's go back to February 24th when Trump gave his State of the Union address. Well, he bombed them 4 days later. And in your Trends Journal, we came out the same day as this, on the 24th, the magazine came out, before his State of the Union address. We said, watch out, he may attack Iran this weekend, because the equity markets were going down very badly. The whole AI crisis of overvaluation of it was happening. The Epstein files were becoming a big issue. That's all totally forgotten right now. Mm-hmm. And his poll ratings were down across the board. As I said, when all else fails, they take you to war. So now let's go back. Hey, because of me, the price of gasoline in most states in the United States, $2.30, which is a total lie. It was $2.92. Hey, it's a lie all I want, all right? Don't you know who I am? I'm the guy that lied my way into office and said, I'm going to bring peace on earth, all right? I'm not going to start a war, I'm going to stop wars, all right? Mm-hmm. Now, what's the average price of a gallon of gasoline in America?
What is it?
I just went on the air. Was it $4.15?
Wow. It's gone up 15 cents from the beginning of the week. It was just over $4 at the beginning of the week. It's gone up another 15 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is destroying the middle class of this country's gone. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And again, you could thank this slime ball for a lot of it. There's a T-shirt I did back in 1992 when he ran for office. Beware of Slick Willie, who deregulated all of these antitrust laws so that bigs could take over everything. Oh,
Yep.
back in Jimmy Carter. Oh, that slimeball, arrogant. Hey, I'm the peanut farm with a pair of cones the size of a peanut, all right? This is the guy that started interstate banking. That's right. Before that, it was only intrastate banking. Bank of America, and that was only out in California.
Mm-hmm.
And then Slimeball Clinton made it happen.
Yep.
When we were young guys, there were, remember savings banks? Remember you used to put your money in a bank and you got nice interest back on it? Oh, those days are over.
Oh, yeah, they are.
The big banks have taken over everything. Mm-hmm. Oh, and then going back to the Slimeball Obama. Oh, that he's only, what is Clinton worth? About $130 million now? I think the Obama is only worth about $80 million. A little boy of nothing. Mm-hmm. Oh, the Pritzker family brought him in. Oh, the Hayek guy, that fat slob over there in Chicago, in Illinois. Yeah. When Obama was a little nothing over there. Mm-hmm. Oh, one after another. Oh, Obama. Oh, yeah. $29 trillion, the Federal Reserve, to bail out the banksters when the Panic of 08 hit. Mm-hmm. Again, when we were young guys, there were hardware stores, there were stationery stores, there were shoe stores, there were drug stores, there were fish stores. Everything now is a chain.
That's right.
Because of these slime ball, if they were Italian, you'd call them a mafia. But morons and imbeciles call them politicians. I'm a Democrat. I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative. I'm a liberal. I got a tiny little mind, and I suck up to a lot of crap. Mm-hmm. They're murderers and thieves. By their deeds you shall know them. Every time this slimeball Clinton got caught with his pants down, bombs away over Baghdad. Oh, you like what he did to Yugoslavia, huh? Yeah. One after another.
Yeah. Well, I think
people say, oh, Celente, we listen to you more, but you get so angry. We're little gutless little slime balls. So don't raise your voice when they're slaughtering people all over the world. Look what they just did to Lebanon.
Yeah.
This is like bombing New York City.
Yeah.
This is a very advanced society. Imagine your home being bombed. Oh, and that slime ball over there, cats, over there in Israel, in your magazine, the Trends Journal, 600,000 Lebanese that have been pushed out of their homes in southern Lebanon. He said, you can't come back, and we're bombing your homes to ruin. We need a safe zone over here.
How do we ever stop that?
How do we ever stop that?
How do we ever stop this?
Syndicate. It's a crime syndicate. We have the Republicans and the Democrats.
That's right. Yeah. I think
Genocide Joe, you forgot about him?
Oh, yeah. I think Trump, though, is going to be to the Republican Party what Jimmy Carter was to the Democrats. I think he's going to take them down to a level they've never seen before. This is really unpopular in the U.S. We went into Knoxville for a concert, and even though Tennessee is very Republican, and you can look at the big cities like Knoxville and other places like that, they have Democrats that are elected from there. So it's a little bit purple, I guess, to go with their color scheme. But there were a lot of people out on the street with signs protesting all this stuff. You can do that, but it doesn't change anything. Voting doesn't change anything. No. It's all based on the guys with the money, and the guys with the money are the billionaire Zionists. And so we've got, instead of a wag the dog, we got a wag the zog is what's going on right now.
Matter of fact, there's an article that just came out. It's going to be next week's Trends Journal about the DNC saying that they will not come out against AIPAC.
Really? Yeah.
Yep. Just came out. And by the way, I want to talk a bit about Israel. This whole ready? Mm-hmm. Google it up. In 1947, 33 countries voted in favor of a UN General Assembly Resolution 181, also known as the Partition Plan, which recommended the creation of a Jewish state and an Arab state in mandatory Palestine. The vote on November 29th, 1947 passed, you ready? With 33 nations in favor, 13 against, and 10 absences. Key supporters included the USA, USSR, France, in Australia, while opposition came largely from Arab and Muslim majority nations. The resolution paved the way for the declaration of Israel's independence on May 14th, 1948. They invented this crap.
Yeah.
They had no right to be there. Oh, shut up, Celente. We're the United Nations. You're the United Nothings. Look at the slaughter going on. Look what Gaza's become. It was a very beautiful city, totally demolished. Bombing Beirut. This is an invented place. Oh, and talking about hating Hezbollah. Oh, Hezbollah. Those terrorists. You mean the Lebanese that threw Israel out of Lebanon after they were occupying it for 18 years? Why, Celente? God gave us that land. It's in the good book, chapter 6, section 8.
Well, they had
a terrorist group.
Yeah.
Lebanese men that gave their lives to throw out the invaders of their country.
That's right. And a lot of Christians there in Lebanon who were allied with Hezbollah. As a matter of fact, as I was pointing out before you came on, they were talking to the Red Cross in Lebanon. You don't have the Red Cross in non-Christian areas. Arabs don't allow it. The Jews don't allow it. They have to have a red crescent or a red star or whatever. They wouldn't even allow the cross in their country. So that tells us how Christian the area is. And a lot of people have said, Hezbollah is protecting us from the Israelis. And so we support that. And that's, I guess, one of the reasons why they're going after the civilian population that's there.
Yep. This is, again, if you Google it up. Israel withdrew its forces from southern Lebanon in May 24th, 2000, ending an 18-year occupation. You ready? This is the kind of language they use. Following a sustained guerrilla campaign by Hezbollah. The move followed a rise in military casualties and growing domestic pressure in Israel, including the collapse of the southern Lebanon army and Israeli forces' retreat to the Blue Line. Again, they're occupiers. They're stealers and robbing this country. And this is the other thing. Shove that anti-Semite crap up you know what.
Yeah.
These are not Semites.
Yeah.
That are running Israel. They're Eastern Europeans and Khazars, Ashkenazis, Ashkenazi, Ashkenazi. All right?
Well,
that's who they are.
It's an ethnic racist state. They appeal to that that's their raison d'etre for existing. And yet they call you racist if you oppose their politics. Yeah. They're the ones who are racist because they created a racist government that is there.
Yep.
But the language that they use, as I pointed out before you came on, they refer to, again, the press is owned by the Zionist billionaires. And so they refer to Hezbollah as a proxy of Iran. It's like, understand, they're an ally of Iran. And Iran and Hezbollah are more loyal to each other than the U.S., than Israel is to the U.S. They're saying we're not going to leave them behind. And Hezbollah jumped into this to support Iran as they were being aggressively attacked as war was initiated against them. They joined in to support Iran, and Iran is saying, well, we're not going to abandon them at this point. It's disgusting, as you and I were saying off air. We see these threats about civilization ending, and I said it yesterday. You had a commenter here earlier today say that the civilization that's being destroyed is our civilization.
Yeah. IDF spokesman issues evacuation order for Beirut residents. So everybody listening, get out of your house. We're going to bomb you to death. Hey, we're the Israelis. Oh, and by the way, they're doing it with our money.
Yeah.
That's right. Slimeball Obama. What? Almost $4 billion a year we've been giving Israel. And we're giving them all the bombs and weapons to keep slaughtering people. So everybody get to work. I want your tax money. There's an article, by the way, again, as trend forecasters, we read, you were mentioning, that's the Israeli newspaper. We subscribe to that. We go to Times of Israel. We go to Jerusalem Post. We go to Ynet. We also go to Press TV, Tehran Times, IRNA, ISNA, want to hear what the Iranians have to say. We go to Euronews. We go to BBC, Guardian, France 24, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We read everything. And then we say, this is what they're saying. This is our analysis. And here's where we see our trend forecasts. So whether you like them or not, we read them. And here's an article in not one of my favorite papers, but again, we read everything every day to see what they're saying. How Trump took U.S. to war with Iran.
Oh, yeah, the New York Times article. Yeah.
You heard about this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I covered it. As a matter of fact, the thing I thought was interesting about that was not only how this is manipulated by Netanyahu, and he's got a presentation that they say they set him down, and he's across the table from the president, and behind him is a big screen projection TV, and he's got the chief of Mossad there, and they give him this fairy story. And then as they go back and they ask the U.S. intelligence to take a look at it, the director of the CIA comes in and he goes, one word, farcical. And yet Trump does this because he is a Zionist. And I said, my take on it, what do you think about this, Gerald? I said, what I think is interesting about this is that the details that they have there either are completely fabricated, which I kind of don't think they are, or you've got a very high source, because you look at the people that were at that meeting, it's his cabinet. And so what does that tell us? Does that tell us that there's some people who are in that story who want to distance themselves from what Trump is doing because they see how destructive it is to this country and they know it's going to end their career in the future? I mean, is that why this was leaked?
I don't know the why.
What do you think?
But I agree with what you're saying. I believe a lot of what they wrote here. And again, here, from Netanyahu's hard sell to inner circle talks that greenlit the attack. And here's the people, and this is what they call the situation room. How about an ignorant, stupid room? Situation room. Here, Susie Wiles, the White House chief of staff. Oh, yeah, she's brilliant in military knowledge. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, a little jerk of nothing that Trump used to make fun of, the little Marco, a little clown boy, a little stupid piece of scum. Oh, and Pete Hegseth. Hogsett, yeah, the clown boy from Fox, the arrogant guy that uses God's name in vain, that little arrogant boy.
Yeah, that's right, he does.
General Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and John Ratcliffe, the CIA director. You ready? Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law.
Yeah.
And Steve Witkoff Jerkoff. All right. What are you calling this, a situation room?
We're in a situation, aren't we?
We got it. And then you mentioned this too, when you said, did they do this because? Because there's one thing after another saying how they weren't for this, but they wouldn't come out against the president.
That's right. That's right.
One of these gutless little clowns after another. Well, we don't know, but whatever the president thinks is okay.
Yeah, that's right. Grow a spine. Yeah, you're going to destroy the world economy, kill who knows how many people, including Americans, and you can't say no. This is a group of yes men. And when you go back and look at the 25th Amendment, Gerald, these are the guys who are afraid to say no to a global depression and an unnecessary war. These are the people who would have to be the ones to take Trump out of office. That ain't going to happen.
Yeah. Here we go. In the Situation Room on February 11th, Mr. Netanyahu also made a hard-selling suggestion that Iran was ripe for regime change and expressing the belief that a joint U.S.-Israeli mission could finally bring an end to the Islamic Republic.
Yeah. Well, I think
Mr.
the countries that are ripe for regime change is the U.S. and Israel.
Yep. And as you were saying, among those featured was Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of Iran's last Shah. Now a Washington-based dissident who had tried to position himself a secular leader who could shepherd Iran toward a post-theocratic government. Mr. Netanyahu and his team outlined conditions they portrayed as pointing to near certain victory. Iran's ballistic missile program could be destroyed in a few weeks. The regime would be so weak that it could not choke off the Strait of Hormuz, and the likelihood that Iran would land blows against U.S. interests in neighboring countries was assessed as minimal.
Yeah, that's the Goldilocks scenario. Right? Everything's going to go just right.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's when they start talking about this Pavlovi guy. If the little prince shows up, if he shows his face in Iran, he would last about 2 minutes before these people would execute him. After what the Shah did to so many Iranians, they haven't forgotten that, and he wouldn't last a minute.
So you're asking before about the economic consequences. It's global. And this is really wiping out the Middle East. Again, we only read the data, and we haven't seen it, the recent numbers in 3 weeks. But 3 weeks ago, they were losing over $600 million a day in tourism in the Middle East. $600 million. That was 3 weeks ago. Dubai property sales plunge over 30%.
Wow.
They overbuilt all these places. That little clown boy that's the prince over there. And again, I'm tired of this prince and king crap. I'm not 6 years old. What do you want to make up this king prince? A royalty. Oh, yeah, I'm just a little giddy from the Bronx, all right?
It's a fairy tale.
You with this royalty crap. I don't want to hear it.
It's a fairy tale, you know? You don't want to buy into the fairy tale?
Again, if they were Italian, they'd call them a mafia.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Anyway, this little prince clown, they were trying to build up tourism. Saudi Arabia's economy was going down. You look at Brent crude sales before this was going on. They were down like $58 a barrel. There was more supply than demand, and they weren't cutting back on supply because they needed the money.
Yeah.
And now the prices have spiked up. When we went on the air, it was about $96 a barrel for Brent crude. And that's the other thing. Trump keeps lying and lying and lying so that he keeps, again, what's in your Trends Journal, only the facts are there. He keeps lying and lying and lying to pump up the equity markets and to bring down energy prices, crude prices.
They're anxious to hear a happy story. And so when they get a happy story, it jumps all of a sudden. And yet it takes about a day for them to come back and say, well, that ain't going to happen. But here's something that I thought was kind of interesting. And of course, when we look at the bigger picture and the goals of people like Netanyahu and the Zionists, they've actually got patches on their uniforms that depict Greater Israel, what they want to do in terms of what they think is what they say is their mandate, their biblical mandate from the people who deny everything else in the Bible except what they think is their land. And they're willing to kill for the land. And they want to take everything from the Nile up to the Euphrates. And so when I look at this, it seems to me like their goal, I see what you think about this, seems to me like their goal is to destroy all of the other countries, to do a Gaza-cide, just like they did with Gaza, destroy Lebanon, destroy all these Gulf states, and then occupy them and take their oil. Now, don't you think that's the long-term?
100% correct.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Again, read that article. Again, and as you did. That's all it's about.
That's right. And so from that standpoint.
Again, a made-up country.
Yeah.
They had no right to this thing.
That's right.
Again, let's not forget, it's only in your Trends Journal. We wrote about it back we called it Crusades 2000, about the Balfour Declaration in 1917. His Majesty's government declares, His Majesty's government, a murderous clown from the UK and throw an FAU in a scene at UK? Oh, that guy? His Majesty's government declares that the land in Palestine will be settled by the Jewish people, and we will use our best endeavors to achieve this objective. Oh, the letter that went to the Rothschilds?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, the Epsteins, the Rothschilds, Greenberg, Iceberg, what's the difference?
Yeah. So, iceberg, let us take the whole area that's there. Let's talk a little bit about this toll thing. Again, it's already closed up again, I believe. But if they were to go back to collect, if they collect these tolls, and if they could streamline it so they could get the same kind of traffic that they did before, in terms of $2 million per ship, I worked out that that would be equivalent to, over a course of a year, at the traffic levels that they had before the war happened, they would be making about $91 billion a year, which is about 25% of their GDP. I mean, that'd be a big boost. If we looked at the equivalent to the United States, the U.S. has got, even though Iran only gets a half a trillion, or 400 billion, let's say, their GDP is 400 billion. Our GDP is 32 trillion. If you increased our GDP by 25%, that'd be equivalent to us having having a windfall of about $8 trillion. So this is something that would make a huge difference to the Iranian regime. Not only has the war solidified the civilian bombing of people in Iran, as it always does, it builds support for whoever it is that you're bombing. It doesn't change regimes. It builds their base of support.
You're 1,000%
and this
correct.
amount of money that would be coming in from these tolls, that will be viewed as a huge win as well. What do you think the chances of this happening are?
They're going to happen.
Yeah,
there's no question about it. They're winning.
Well, I got to say, when I read that New York Times story and they talked about Jared Kushner being in on that high-level meeting that decides whether or not we're going to have a war, they don't tell anybody in Congress. They don't ask people in Congress. Now Lindsey Graham is saying, yeah, you don't need to do that. But if you want peace, you've got to ask us and you've got to get Congress's approval. I mean, he won't even show people the document, although the Pakistanis who mediated this said that Israel not attacking Lebanon was a condition of the ceasefire. Trump at first said that, and then he changed his tune because he always lies.
Always lies.
Yeah, just amazing. But when I saw that Jared Kushner was there, again, Netanyahu used to come to the United States and he would stay at the Kushner house.
That's
and he would actually sleep in Jared's bed. Presumably not while Jared was there. I don't know. Who knows what's going on? Who knows what's going on with these people? But these are the people who decide that they're going to send us to war. So don't say that Israel didn't push us into a war. The handwriting is all over this.
Again, it's genocide, Joe. I used to make fun of that arrogant little boy, Anthony Blinken.
Mm-hmm.
I come to Israel as a Jew, he said.
Mm-hmm.
How about coming as a Secretary of State? What the hell do I care what you believe in?
Yeah.
I got to believe in your religion? How about coming as an American?
Mike Huckabee goes there. He's an ambassador for Israel to us. And he even on Easter, he doesn't talk about Christ or the resurrection. He talks about Judaism, wishes them a happy Passover, completely ignores Christ. It's just amazing to see these. And of course, he was the one, Tucker was aware of the greater Israel thing and kind of leads him into it. And he goes, yeah, sure, take it all. Yeah, we support that. Yeah.
Yep, I saw that. Yeah, this is from the New York Times. Israel strikes hits a Christian town in Lebanon. All right?
Mm-hmm.
How Israel is taking control of much of southern Lebanon, one after another.
Well, let's talk about it from a standpoint of, Mr. and Mrs. America. What do we, as a people who have no say-so in this war, what do we do to prepare for this? Of course, we're going to see massive inflation. We're going to see probably, definitely a global recession, most likely a global depression. You've been saying this for over a decade because of what the Federal Reserve was doing. This just stokes it up even more. So when we see a depression, what can people do to prepare for this?
As I say, GC's 3Gs, guns, gold, and a getaway plan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Gold prices should be way higher. What's happening is that a lot of countries, because the economies are going down so badly, are selling gold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was just reported in the Financial Times that Turkey sold like $20 billion worth of gold.
Yeah. They got to cover themselves, Well, you had France did a major amount, and they were portraying it as the fact that Germany's been fighting to repatriate their gold out of the New York Fed vaults, supposedly where it is, and haven't been successful. What France did was they said, all right, we're going to sell our gold, And because they couldn't get the Federal Reserve to produce it because the Federal Reserve may not have it. And so they got the cash in terms of fiat dollars, and then they bought gold in Europe. And everybody was saying, look at this, they even made a profit, because when they sell this massive amount of gold, that depresses the market in the United States. Yep. And then as the price of gold is depressed because of their sale, they're able to buy it in Europe. They made a $15 billion profit by depressing the price of gold by doing a massive sell-off and then buying it over there. And they didn't have to pay for the expense of insurance and armed guards to transport all of that stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, we're bullish on gold, and we're bullish on silver, gold more than silver. And again, it's a safe haven asset. And this thing is going to keep going down. Look at, again, now they're warning that by the way, they're saying gold prices are also going down because of they're not going to lower interest rates because of inflation. What's the interest rate now? 3.5, 3.75, right? Let's go back to 1978, 79, when I started buying gold. What was the interest rate back then?
I don't know. What was it?
About 12%.
Yeah.
All right? Has nothing to do with interest rates.
Yep.
They're going down. The other reason it's going down because when the gold spiked to like $5,600 an ounce, there was a lot of speculation. A lot of people were playing the ETFs. Now with the equity markets going down, they need the money to cover their losses. That's what pulled it down too.
Yeah.
So to me, this is a temporary down, but still, as we're on the air, it's over $4,700 an ounce. So let's go back to when we called it a golden year for gold back in January 2nd, 2024. What was it back then? $2,041. All right? So two and a half years ago, it was what? $2,041. And now it's $4,770 something dollars.
Yeah.
All right. That's showing you how bad it is. And when you look at, again, you're talking about the price of gasoline. When I was a kid, 25 cents a gallon.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. I remember that. Yeah.
Right.
I remember that as well.
A slice of pizza and a soda, 25 cents, 15 cents for the pizza. All right. The moronic crime syndicate that imbeciles call a government has destroyed our nation.
Yeah, that's right.
The facts. You're talking about where it's going. Oh, look at mortgage rates now, huh? Oh, they're going way up. Let's go back just a couple of years ago before the COVID war. What was the average age of the first-time home buyers in America? 28 years old. What is it today? 40.
Wow.
The top 1% of America are responsible for about 50% of all the spending in the country.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about interest rates and how that didn't stop gold back in the 1970s. And you're absolutely right. Our first home that we got, 13% fixed rate. And, again, we were stupid and young and we didn't, we did that. But at that time, even with that home mortgage rates being up to 13%, gold was soaring. And so the reality is that when you look at the budget deficit, Trump is all freaked out about trade deficits. And he already, before he started this global war that he's doing now, this war on energy, he already started a war on trade because he's so freaked out about the trade deficit. But he doesn't care at all about the budget deficit. He
only cares about himself.
Yeah, that's right. Well, he doesn't want to have the big interest rates, interest expenses, which is a big bottom line expense now. It's becoming huge for the federal government. That's one of the reasons that they would like to lower the interest rates, and why I think Trump is going to push the Federal Reserve to do that. As you pointed out, he wants lower interest rates because it helps to make him look good in terms of being able to cover the interest on it. And he will lean on the Federal Reserve to do that. As you point out, he always gets what he wants when he does that.
Again, look at the lies. His State of the Union on the cover of the magazine this week. His April 1st speech. We call it the April Fool's Day speech. He said the economy's never been stronger than under the strongest economy in the history of America.
Yeah. Everything he says is a lie.
2.1%, I think, last year was the GDP growth. He gets away with these lies. And by the way, you said when you were young and you didn't know, you bought the thing at 13%, right? That was when I was a kid, I'm about 17 years old, my father, may rest in peace, eating dinner. He looks at me, he said, son, they say that youth is wasted on the young. He took a couple more bites. He pointed his finger at me. He said, they were talking about you. Anyway, they keep coming out with this crap. This is this Daily Beast. Top doctor sounds alarm on Trump 79 over dementia. Next one. Trump 79 grips on Melania for dear life down White House steps. They keep spewing this crap out that at 79 years old, you're dumb. Screw you. I'm the same age as Trump, and I'm a lot smarter than I was because I keep learning every day. So I get this crap from people saying, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, they said that back in when America was formed, that something you couldn't be over 65 years old. Hey, jerk, go back to see what the average age was back in the 1776. People were dying about 50 years old was the average death age.
Yeah. And take a look at Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, they're selling this crap that Trump, because he's 79, is stupid. Has nothing to do with that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, when I saw this New York Times thing, I said, what they're doing is they're trying to, whoever's leaked this information to the New York Times, they're trying to set up the scenario to excuse Trump yet again. We saw the same thing happening back with COVID, right? He said, well, I had two very smart people who came to me and told me that we had this pandemic when there was no pandemic. We had Fauci and Birx who go in with a bunch of fake information from the Imperial College of London, right? And then you have all these people who are Trump fans and say, oh, he was deceived by Fauci and Birx. Well, we all knew that Fauci was a crook and a criminal. We all knew that he had pushed for everything the pharmaceutical industry wanted. He had pushed the immunity for vaccine damage thing through with Reagan and so forth. So we knew he was a scumbag, just like we know that Netanyahu is a scumbag. But what I think they're going to do is they're going to push this off and say, yeah, it was Netanyahu and Mossad. It wasn't Trump. He was okay. He was just deceived. Even though he's a genius, he was just deceived into doing this, just like Fauci and Birx deceived him. I've heard that so many times.
And the thing about Trump, too, there's one of these quotes, a whole civilization will die tonight.
Yeah.
Never to be brought back again. Remember he said that?
Yeah.
Remember he said about his April Fool's speech, we're going to bomb him into the Stone Ages? Now, let's say if Hitler said these things back in World War II, they would be teaching us this in our history books when we went to school after World War II. Do you know what Hitler said? He said, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. Oh, my God. But Trump could get away with this?
That's the textbook definition of genocide. And what he's been doing and what the U.S. has been doing is the textbook definition of terrorism. And I played a clip from somebody who used to work for the CIA, and she went through the definition of terrorism, and she talked about how these Tomahawk missiles operate and the fact that they had to have known that they were going into a school when they killed those children, 160 young girls on day one. She said, that is terrorism. That is intimidation. And that's what he's doing all the time.
U.S.-Israeli strikes hit over 115,000 civilian structures in Iran, according to Red Crescent. Could you imagine? Could you imagine your house being bombed, your whole neighborhood? I'm up here in Kingston, New York. What do we got? 25,000 people here, and you're talking about countries with millions of people. And again, in Lebanon, over 1 million people have been forced out of their homes by Israel. Over 1 million people. Yeah. And where's the outrage?
Yeah.
And where are all these religions, as I keep saying? Oh, the Pope said. Oh, the Pope said. How about empty words coming out of nobody's mouth? How about taking some action?
Yeah.
Oh no, I got to get dressed up in my costume. Yeah.
Yeah, this guy, these grifters that hang around Trump as his spiritual advisors, because that's really what his spirit is all about, the love of money, the root of all evil. He's got people like Paula White, and he's got Robert Jeffress. And of course, Robert Jeffress, I've been on to this guy for a long time. He was going around with Curtis Chang back during the pandemic. Curtis Chang was given a lot of money by the Trump administration to propagandize people through the spiritual leaders that they trusted, the pastors or whatever. And he had a program for that. And they basically war gamed it out using the psychological tactics that had been tested in a double-blind study by Yale University in the summer of 2020. And I talked about that, and you could see people like Robert Jeffress putting this stuff out, and Curtis Chang putting this stuff out verbatim, saying, well, you owe it to your neighbors. This is loving your neighbor to get a vaccine, even though you're not sick and you don't need it, and so forth. And this guy was out there covering for Trump, as you had a lot of Baptists. Like I was joking the other day, I said, the Baptists don't mind if you drop bombs on other people. They just don't want you using the F-bomb. And so he comes back and he goes, well, it's salty language. All presidents use salty language. So he's cheering the genocide of this. That doesn't faze him at all. At the same time, we've got some people who come out and say, well, I always voted for Republicans because I was pro-life. You can't be pro-life and call for genocide at the same time. What's the matter with you people? You got
perfectly said.
You got all these people out there talking about euthanasia and abortion, and yet they cheer genocide. I can't get my head around that.
I know. I say the same thing. Yeah. Oh, you don't want them to kill a baby before they're born, but you can kill anybody you want after they're born.
That's right. Yeah, that's the way they go.
Again, just to make it clear, this is the way I feel about all politicians. You get this T-shirt at Trends Journal.
That's right. Well, people can go to trendsjournal.com. You can save 10% off with the code NIGHT. It's always great talking to you, Gerald. I wish we had good news, but there's just a few things that people can do to prepare, but there's really not much that they can do. Thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for all you do. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, folks, have a... The common man. They created Common Core to dumb down our children. They created Common Pass to track and control us. Their Commons Project to make sure the commoners own nothing. And the communist future. They see the common man as simple, unsophisticated, ordinary. But each of us has worth and dignity created in the image of God. That is what we have in common. That is what they want to take away. Their most powerful weapons are isolation, deception, intimidation. They desire to know everything about us while they hide everything from us. It's time to turn that around and expose what they want to hide. Please share the information and links you'll find at davidknightshow.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. If you can't support us financially, please keep us in your prayers. davidknightshow.com.